Hello, everyone, and welcome to Performance Anxiety's 8th online reading event, the Kristin Garth Birthday Edition. We're very happy to be belatedly celebrating PA co-organizer Kristin Garth's birthday with a roster of not 10, but 11 wonderful readers to, quote, totally overdo it, as I do, in Kristin's words from earlier today. If you haven't listened in before, Performance Anxiety is an online reading series hosted via Skype on the third Thursday of every month at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, except this month, which is a fourth Thursday exception, so Kristin could get back in time from Disney to go to her own birthday bash. My name is Tom Snarsky, and as one of the co-organizers of Performance Anxiety, I'm happy to be the MC of tonight's reading. If you are a poet or writer who would be interested in sharing your work at a future event, you're more than welcome to get in touch with me on Twitter at Tom Snarsky, TomSnarsky, or via email at tomsnarsky, same spelling, at gmail.com. You can also get in touch with Kristin herself, birthday girl extraordinaire and the other co-organizer of the series. I'll let you know how when she shares her poems with us in just a minute. A quick note here that if you do get in touch, our next unthemed reading will actually be in March, since we have a very special Twin Peaks reading planned for February, about which I'll share a few more details at the close of our reading tonight. It'll actually be my first time on Performance Anxiety purely as a reader, so I'm excited and nervous, but very ready to celebrate Twin Peaks. At each of our events, we usually feature 10 readers who each have up to 5 minutes to share a selection of their writing with us. We usually have folks who read live in the Skype call, but in the spirit of the name Performance Anxiety, sometimes readers choose to share their work with us via other means that are less live. And our last 3 readers for the evening will read their poems by way of some beautiful recordings they've shared with me to play back for you on the air. A little bit more on that later, though. To kick off our birthday celebration, it gives me great pleasure to introduce none other than my co-organizer of Performance Anxiety, the brainchild of this whole project, the birthday girl herself, Kristin Garth, who's a pushcart, best of the net, Ristling-nominated sonnet stalker. Her sonnets have stocked journals like Glass, Yes, 521, Luna Luna, and more. She's the author of 14 books of poetry, including Pink Plastic House, Candy Cigarette Woman Child Noir from the Hedgehog Poetry Press, the forthcoming Flutter, Southern Gothic Fever Dream from Twisted Press, The Meadow from APEP Publications, and Shut Your Eyes Succubi from Maverick Duck. Thanks, Kristin, as always, for being here, and very happy birthday.
Thank you. I'm going to read a poem that is going to be published very soon in Rogue Agent Journal, and it's called Hole. Labored a summer, digging a pond, begun in better times before fortune absconds, with family, lush-bladed lawn, a season ago. You dug a hole when you didn't know the sounds it would harbor, abandon, despair. No water, ill wish, just cascading red hair of a neighbor you never noticed before. You dug this hole and forgot what it was for. You tore down fences, hedges, all boundaries. Swear you bear no blame, hostilities toward the howler who fell. You weren't even there. Trespassed your yard, pit of despair. Not hard to tell yourself, didn't want this at all. You dug a hole, she decided to fall. And the next poem I'm going to read is called Untouchable, and it was just published in Burning House Press in the Vision edition. Tiptoe in a dead man's house, cobwebs snared upon a ripped lace-trim blouse. You walk into to leave each room. Encapsulated, clair de lune, illuminates antiquities, viewed moon phases, no electricity, since no soul survives to pay the bill. Just you, a treasure hunter, for a will. Jade quince, gold-mottled filigree, between your 2 incisors pinched, sates not your hunger, thirst unquenched. The black-eyed daughter, no one fed, seeks recompense from the dead. Finger first, favored child, canvas girl, upstairs, instead of you, defiled, dispatched beneath his grand stairwell, untouchable, you cannot wait to sell. And this next poem is from my new manuscript that's going to be coming out from APEP at the end, towards the end of the year, called The Stakes, and it's about fire as a tool of misogyny used against women throughout history and even in present day. But this one is an ancient wound here, and it's called A Love Philter for Martin Luther. There is no compassion to be had for these women. I would burn all of them myself. Martin Luther, who inveighed against love philters and incantations, the devil's whores. If ever lived a man who did require a love philter, no romantic desire, just rapport with womankind, Martin Luther sure comes to mind. A man whose only lust was for the stake, torturing devil's whores until the silence breaks. Maybe a limb until they cannot stand, then barrel for immolating incantations within white oak, freckled skin of not just witches, but these women who should burn without empathy. Lutherans learn, Leviticus, that priests may with stones cast criminals out. Left monastery, according to Voltaire, only to convey its cloisters everywhere. And my last poem is going to be from my new book that literally just came out. Just got all my copies yesterday, and it's called Flutter, and I'm going to read Perennial. A searing steeples, you will think, that swells the throat, prohibits drink, foliage to buttress vermilion bloom. You expel, through peeling skin, bequeathing room. Spoilage humanity all shed, while you await a cultivator in bed, tender as he whispered he would be, hydrate the wilted perennially. Topaz imperial, complexion rare, displace the freckles, ginger hair. Replace with dew perpetual, thorns pollen coat, grow roots to taste, exchange a useless throat. He will pluck you, abandon, withered rose reposed. He knows his perennial dare not decompose. Thank you.
Thank you so much, as always, Kristin, the one constant feature of performance anxiety readings, and the happiest belated birthday wishes from all of us. Again, that was Kristin Garth, who you can follow on Twitter at Lola and Jolie, LOLAANDJOLIE, and you can find more work on her website, kristingarth.com. So Kristin may have just shared her poems so that now she can rest easy and enjoy the show. But as a small birthday surprise, each of our remaining readers tonight has chosen a poem, whether theirs or Kristin's or someone else's entirely, to read in her honor. So look forward to those as we keep the celebration rolling with our next reader, Amy Alexander. Amy Alexander is the author of The Legend of the Kettle Daughter from Hedgehog Poetry Press. She was a finalist for the Ruth Lilly Poetry Fellowship, which I didn't know until she had submitted her bio for performance. I was like, holy moly. And she's a winner of the AWP Intro Journals Project in Nonfiction. She designs and illustrates book covers, including Mansion from Dancing Girl Press, edited by our very own Kristin Garth, as well as books from Animal Heart Press, Twist in Time magazine, and others. Thanks for being back on Performance Anxiety, Amy. Take it away.
Thanks, Tom. Happy birthday, Kristin. Kristin was my first Twitter friend. And she was always very supportive. And I told her that there's no way I could ever write any poem that rhymes. She encouraged me to think beyond that. And she just really inspires me to continue to push the boundaries of what you can do with the spoken and written word. So happy birthday. And I wrote this poem inspired by and also sort of dedicated to Kristin. So I'll start with Poker Face. And this poem appeared in Songs to Learn and Sing, which was an anthology published by Hedgehog Poetry Press. Poker Face. You and me in our meat dress face the world, and it's less blistering, less black and blue. We're weird, and it's true. It keeps the creeps away. I never wanted to play the sex doll, though you did sometimes. Still, I noted it was never for the candy eyes. From the makeup stool, you realized you were hot sky magic. This was all dressing. Poker face, proud. No fessing up, giant woman claiming her power and poked fun at, still not a care in the world. Catholic girl, you go back home and show up, your hair black like it was when you were little, and they take you in, cattle call school. Sister What's-Her-Name still loved you. There is no shame, and that is mercy, the part of God the men don't want to share. Odd girls together, bow our heads in prayer. Okay, and the second poem I'm going to read is called Hidden Solar System. And, you know, Kristin always inspires us to think about our family dynamics, whether healthy or toxic or whatever they were, and to continue to turn those over in our minds. So this is a poem I wrote about my dad. It's called Hidden Solar System. A whole universe between my ears, birthplace of otters, their smiles and dapple, swing sets, and a place in Caliche. We planted cottonwood, tree of the Platte, and watered it with a 2-gallon rubber rainmaker, and maybe some tears, one for every mile between us and high country, piling pebbles on grapefruit seeds and waiting for green. And in this place it comes to us, and the fruit is sweet, the sugar raises heat, buckles roads. I try to reach that water and find it in my mind, though you tell me it's just the horizon holding itself, telling the sun it is saturated, and which one of us is speaking truth. By the time I can climb, I have already learned not to trust gravity without hearing from you first. I could fall 100 times, and if you told me the next topple I'd fly, watch my feathers dapple down. Fathers are just men who love outside the lines. So how can they know that it is from their words that daughters form galaxies? A knot of wood on the backyard apple tree was home to blue things, Smurf talk and Smurf jobs. Some days if I was sick, you would visit the 5 and dime on your way home from the office and present one to me. Did it ever seem strange to you I lived in 1,000 places, none of them with our address? Cooper Avenue, one-way street behind the cherry tree. No, I saved that. Now I walk these halls, brush my hand over the banister you polished, slam the swinging saloon doors. I don't sink into some spaghetti western, my 12-year-old machismo long gone. I stop to pick up the secrets. They are heavy rocks. It must have taken everything to carry them. I cannot make them spin. You hid this solar system, all its laws and gravities in deep caves, and the space between my ears is finally blank. So I'll wrap it up with that one, and thank you guys so much. Happy birthday, Kristin.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amy, who's a regular contributor to Performance Anxiety. You can keep up with Amy's work on Twitter at IRIEMOM and on Instagram at Amy with a pen, all one word. So we'll keep things rolling on this birthday celebration with our next reader, who is also a Performance Anxiety regular, Sara Matson. Sara Matson's poetry has been nominated for Best of the Net 2019 and can be found or is forthcoming in Kissing Dynamite, Bone Bouquet, Pink Plastic House, a tiny journal, edited by Guess Who, and elsewhere. Sara's chapbook, Electric Grandma, is available from Another New Calligraphy, a great press. She lives in Chicago with her rad husband and cats. Take it away, Sara. I'm looking forward to hearing your poems tonight, as always.
Thanks so much. Hi, Tom and Kristin. Thanks so much for having me back. It's really so great to read for Performance Anxiety with all you incredible writers. This is really such an honor. And just celebrate Kristin's birthday. I think that's so awesome. My first poem tonight appeared in Pink Plastic House, a tiny journal. And I'm so honored to say that this was nominated for Best of the Net, thanks to Kristin. And this was inspired by her pink plastic dollhouse. This poem is called Vacation Home. Homage to my royal accomplice of restraint and shabbiness, her impeccable plumbago eyes purred below a meadow of soft gold waters. Gingerbread botanical china neatly stacked like a nightmare of provincial rooms, and licked knuckles spread wide to fabled, humbled, grand gardens at dusk. Unforgiving moonflowers fragrant against a reflecting pool with yellowed water and overwhelming licorice scent. Ever pragmatic, like a gleeful cistern. Decadent disease flourished amongst her imperfections, like an enclosed basket weave, elegant handiwork, living upon the cusp of legendary. She ate chips to play at unpretentiousness, as if she couldn't afford it. Her tips for elusiveness. Remain effusively enthusiastic. Pretend to be denim. Occasionally climb the trellis of the fragrant herb garden, handmade and flourishing. Indulge a sequestered life, with dedicated suite and linens that have been languishing for years. Use vintage glamour as inspiration, as syrupy hope, as heck, as beauty dead and dying. A respectful imprint as eternal holiday. This next poem is brand new, and it's going to be a part of my chapbook called Runway, which has a lot to do with the very weird intersections of fashion and gender. This poem is called Zeitgeist. Suede character heel ground smooth against a frantic calf, attempt at mood jumping. Voice reminds, hey, shouldn't my life be flashing? But the fullness of my nasal cavity clenches what are probably actual cavities, willed away with pressing left hand and recent interest in wax extra smooth. Another voice reminds, my first death, or escape from death, I forgot my place, and the stories are intertwined, an undefinable horror wrapped in silhouette, a sculptural division with some kind of catchy soundtrack. Now record stores don't exist, and chaos reclines kindly, sips kombucha, in pointed flats, bespoke. Raindrops catching in arm hairs, pedal-powered, fresh-faced floral garbage stuffed into each ear hole, before rising like dough and suffocating, the friendly mites living on my skin, feasting on my death fragments, scented with stripper's perfume. Another voice reminds, I need your blood on the brim of my straw fedora. I curl and roll the skin, pinch and primp, the slick wilt on the cabin floor. Fever blooms outward, spreading like an embroidered coaster, delicate and pointless. I would like to end tonight by reading one of my very favorite poems that Kristin Garth wrote in celebration of her birthday. And I really love all her work. This one just happened to stand out to me because of its meta nature. And Kristin has such a stunning poetic voice. And this captures really that incredible spirit that is so prevalent in her work. So this poem written by Kristin Garth is called Ophelia Interrupted. And it's in her book Sock Slut, which is published by Slang Media Lab. So this is Ophelia Interrupted. Iambic OCD, first fingers forced, her fealty, 400-year-old king, a caustic correspondence with a corpse, addict from an assignment, 17 don't know what any of it means, quatrains restrain, a couplet is a cage, a box to bind behemoth's rhythm, rage refrain in 14 lines. Insanity knee-socked, and British architecture locked. A teen boy crazed atop a brook will not die down or drown, be written in his book. Between the stricture of his song, her soul's the sound. A dainty voice his pentameter shook. This broken girl will live to write a book. Thank you again for having me. I am Sara Matson.
Oh, thank you so much, Sara. It's so fun to hear people take on Kristin's rhythms, even for a poem or two. And that was Sara Matson again, whose chapbook Electric Grandma is available from Other New Calligraphy, and whose chapbook Runway I very much look forward to. You can follow Sara on Twitter at Skeletor Writes, SKELETORWRITES. So our next reader is our first newcomer of the night to performance anxiety, but somebody who I'm a huge fan of on Twitter and elsewhere, C.T. Salazar. So C.T. Salazar is a Latinx poet and librarian from Mississippi. He's the author of This Might Have Meant Fire from Bull City Press in 2019. His poems have appeared in Belieu Poetry Journal, the Cincinnati Review, Rhino, and elsewhere. He's now also a candidate for a master's degree in information and archiving science. Thank you so much for being with us tonight, CT. Take it away.
Awesome. Okay. So thanks for having me. Let me get my timer so make sure I don't go over time myself. And all right. So this first poem is from the chapbook that was just mentioned, This Might Have Meant Fire. This one's titled, Mostly I'd Like to Be a Spiderweb. Because in the rain, I'd look like a cracked window without a church to belong to. You could look through me and see the world in front of us. One time, my ex-lovers made a road of tongues for me. I took off my shoes to feel the song a little better and cut a note short with each step. I want to tell you how many churches I've built to praise little things that deserve more than their few seconds of existence. Like the time I opened my door, smelled hibiscus and knew you were home. Like the time a child told me there was a God, and because he was smiling, I believed him. Mostly I'd like to be a spiderweb to feel you walk through, to see if you'll take me with you, despite the spider I bring. Okay, so I never do this because it makes me really nervous, but in honor of Kristin's birthday, my next 3 poems have not been published anywhere, so this is the first time they'll be recorded on any media for you guys. This one's a really short one called When the Crows Came. I didn't hate them. They needed to roost, and I needed a purple deep enough to convince the neighborhood boys of my skin's milkiness. I don't mind seeing strands of my hair in their nests, pages of scripture I've torn out, strips of silver chocolate wrappers, stray threads from old sweaters, they take it all, curious gods. The young ones chirp. Every morning my body's outlined in feathers, the whole bed dappled dark as a beginning. I don't know what to say, so I say thank you. The crows don't know what to say, so they don't speak. They just keep finding parts of me to make useful. I thank them for that too. And this one is titled after a fragment of Sappho. The title is As Long as You Want. The river is high, or the world is sinking. Either way, we have permission to be too much. I threw out your almanac. It said, if you see blood and none of it is yours, trust there is still bleeding to come. I keep imagining God as having the brass claw feet of my mother's tub. Imagine a country where you and I kiss before we burn our battle flags. I was told to bury my dead, but it's the shovel that's underground now. It was an accident, I swear. Follow me if you can. To understand my father's mind, I wrapped my mother in Christmas lights, and then I fell in love with the way she shimmered. Darling, follow me deep enough into this cave. When our oxygen runs thin, we'll confuse the yellow glowworms for teeming yellow moons. And this is the last one I'll read. It's one that, just because I knew this reading was coming, I worked really hard to get this into a presentable form as quickly as possible. So yeah, this is my last one. Happy birthday again, Kristin. Thank you for putting all of this together. The title of this one is It's Easy to Become King of a Place No One Wants to Live in. But it's really hard to stay alive after that. There is what is real, and there is what will be real, and this logic beheads me over and over. I named the scarecrow Ozymandias. I think of my insides as strange aquariums for little blue fish when I'm falling asleep. I said I'm sick of you, but I meant to say I'm seasick of you. Rain is usually the first sign a curse has ended, but it means very little to my family's drought-dry bones. Still the sky says, non-believer, hinge open your jaw for me, the Starfield. Here I believe no country like the country where you and I, for the mercy of the barn, bending into the meadow, bend back and demand a life this dirt could never really give us. That's okay. This was a language I was never meant to speak, but here I am speaking it. Like a paper tiger unfolding in a field, I am waiting to be unrecognizable. How could I love you in any single shape? Any crease made by your hands makes me a treasure map. I'm a temple bell when you ring me. The moth with the orange eyes of God blinking on his wings sees us and sees us soldiers not knowing what to do with ourselves, or especially our hands, on a night so absent of fire. So faith in something like resting my head on your shoulder comes as easy as the atmosphere, spending its sweet time on us. Even with so many stars bumping their foreheads against the glass, even with your hands holding my head together and you singing about surrender and the men who won't. Thank you, guys.
Wow, CT, thank you so much. It's like getting to hold a baby bird when you get to hear unpublished poetry live for the first time. So that was really an awesome privilege from CT Salazar, his first appearance on Performance Anxiety. And if you want to read more poems by him as I do, you can follow him on Twitter at CTSALAZAR_. And that was great. So without any further ado, not quite halfway through our reading order, but I'm very excited to welcome Tiffany Belieu to our reading. Tiffany is working hard on her dream of writing. Her work is published or forthcoming in Back Patio Press, read which more later, Q&A Poetry, Muskeg Magazine, Rabid Oak, and The Mantle, among others. She loves tea and cats. Tiffany, you have great taste. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you. I'm a little nervous, but it's gonna be okay. So I have a couple actually also unpublished pieces that I'm going to read for you. And the first one is called Saturday Chores. On warm days, the coop smelled dusty sunlight, the earthiness of peacocks in close quarters. They hung back, above us, bejeweled and wary, knowing we were there to remove their eggs. Smooth beige, still warm with their biological origins, desire to keep creating in one's own image. We searched through feather-dropped floors as a reward. You handed me a plume, male, emerald bright, brilliant, told me in subtle ways of beauty, its importance, told me no one likes ugly teenagers, and I was on the cusp of womanhood. How strong we had to be to show anything less. In these revelations, I thought myself your favorite, the bravest, the less than beautiful side, the peahen's clouded cataract eyes, their human-like cries didn't wash me in dread, but I was so young, full of lies and desire to place myself in a world not mine, one of the gorgeous and unafraid. And my next piece that I want to read is called Confessional. It's after the show Fleabag. She ripped the lips off prayers, held them above the candles God left burning in her one-bedroom apartment. She held him tender as teardrops, trembling on the silk of a spiderweb. All the secrets cradled in the tuck of her cheek, slicked loose in the truth of his tongue. What did they see when they went where eyes could not follow? The softest moment, filling her misery-drenched chest with unknown glow. How could there ever be forgiveness? How could there ever be life beyond the sweet bruise of fruit in plain sight, the painful temptation of her inglorious hands? Then the last poem I'm going to read by me tonight is a very small piece. It appeared in the 24-hour Neon Mag, Those Creatures Who Stalk the Night pamphlet. It's called Fremont Street. It cost $40 for the Vegas psychic to tell me I'd always be dissatisfied. She's right. I'm a vegetarian, mostly lonesome, anxiety-ridden. Use meditation, 1,000 harpy psychologists titter, but when I close my eyes, all I see are teeth and the terrible ways we open to let light in. I will my empty hands to fill, a string, a rope, a lifeline not drawn down the flesh of a palm. These are the mysteries we ask the sky to unravel, opening up our eager throats to swallow the tiniest drop of something immense. And then, of course, it's Kristin's birthday, and I have interacted with Kristin since my kind of first poetry journey. on Twitter, and she's so wonderful to work with and so nice to everyone. It was hard to pick a piece of work that was my favorite, but this one really spoke to me in a lot of reasons. It was in Sara, which I'm sure I'm saying wrong, but it is called An Entrance is Not an Exit. And I hope I do it justice. 16 is sacrifice. Serpents seek skin. Sequestration a season, and then they begin. Reptilian gazes. Demon enchantment. Sheepskin. Diabolists who crave consumption within. You are an entrance. Composition is doors, all orifices, indefensible pores. Not much hindrance, loose locks, their lizard tongues biramous, shared skeleton keys. Annihilation, your gender seems conspiracy. Your deal with devils when dying is gestation. A cannibal new, just hunger you feel. An entrance, no exit, you let them in. A cemetery inside teenage skin. Thank you.
Awesome. What a mic drop, Tiffany. Thank you so much for an awesome first reading at Performance Anxiety. And that was, again, Tiffany Belieu, whose work you can find on Twitter at Tiffobot, Tiffobot. So magic always comes in threes. I think Lucy Brock-Bordeaux may have said that. So our third first-timer on Performance Anxiety in a row tonight, who'll be joining us next, is Ben Niespodziany. Ben Niespodziany is a Pushcart Prize nominee with work in Fairy Tale Review, Hobart, Paper Darts, Peach Mag, and various others. He works in a library in Chicago, where I believe he also is now, and he runs the multimedia art blog Neon Pajamas. He also posts gorgeous art all the time on Twitter, which is our privilege. So thank you so much, Ben, for being here, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what you're going to share with us tonight.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks to Tom, and happy birthday to Kristin. It's been so great hearing everyone read before me, and I'm looking forward to listening to everyone else afterwards as well. And yes, I'm currently taking my dinner break in my library, so nice and quiet in this little conference space. I'm going to be reading 297 words done in 6 parts as part of my manuscript of fables called Borscht, which is like the cold Russian soup that I've actually never tried. And then I'll close with a sonnet by Kristin that I really admire. Okay, part 1 is called Origin Myth. You dig a hole. You fill it with meat and seasoning and mint and milk. You cover the hole and you wait. It's supposed to take 9 months, but I arrive in 7. When I appear, I'm grown and vocal. You hold me like a science fair finalist. We both wait for a ribbon. Part 2 is called Sombrero Apparel. Look inside the lighthouse for a man selling hats. One hat like an anvil, one hat like an attic. One hat laughs whenever the weather speaks, and another hovers an inch above your head. The man selling hats inside the lighthouse wears a lighthouse hat that's not for sale. Every day is a painless day with a hat like that. Part 3 is called Even Keel. Disguised as a blimp, the blimp sits in a field. Part 4 is called Long Poem. The poet wrote a 297-page poem. His mother, another poet, was the only poet who knew that he wrote it. She provided hopeful notes and added a handful of commas. When the poet died, his mother long gone, the long poem was found, mistaken as scrap and trashed. It's hard to laugh, knowing the wind is still learning to speak. Part 5 is called Challenge. As a dance with balance, I pile my mile-high skyscraper onto your mile-high skyscraper. Our air prepares for wind. In a cloud nearby, some guy disguised as God can't stop coughing, and the birds in the distance we see so clearly continue to inch closer. Part 6 and the final part is called A Matryoshka Picnic. And Matryoshka is, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but it's like the Russian dolls where they keep getting smaller. So anyway, you buy a picnic basket. Inside the picnic basket is a smaller picnic basket. This persists for years. Eventually, you reach the smallest picnic basket, where inside is a tiny lunch that never rots, like the world that it waits to leave. Okay, so thank you for that. I'm now going to finish with a sonnet by Kristin that I really admire. This is from a couple years ago on Burning House Press. It's called Girl in a Cage. and I apologize if I mess up with rhythms or whatnot. The ransom written in her hand, small scrawl, a smear of tears, demands, some film inside, 10 frames disgrace, caged baby doll who crawls, a dirty face, delivery by PI, pinstripes, trench coat, half past midnight he knocks, manila envelope, her drowsy dad who seethes in silk, unlocks a safe well stocked. Brutes won't be bilked, briefcase he pads, $500,000 bucks. Pier Park daybreak, the note instructs. Off dock 1, dump, then don't look back. Beneath PI retrieves what fortune floats, joins caged cohort aboard his boat. Unpack it, pay me, set me free. His speech soft, sage. Don't see any partner, girl in a cage. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it.
Wow, thank you so much, Ben. What a gift for image. I'm going to think about the lighthouse hat for quite some time, and the tiny lunch too. That again was Ben Niespodziany, whose work you can find on Twitter at Neon Pajamas, and whose multimedia art blog you can find at neonpajamas.com. Again, Ben is a great follow because all that art is just absolutely stunning. So without further ado, our next reader is Joe Ianni, another friend who is returning to PA after I think a 2-month hiatus maybe or so. Joe is a poet and a performance artist from Toronto who I'm very happy to call my friend. Welcome, Joe, and I can't wait to hear what you're going to read.
Hi, everybody. I am glad to be back. Thanks, Tom. I'm glad to see that there's some other people here who've been here before. It's nice to hear from you again. I just have 3 poems that I wanted to share with y'all. First, I saw someone who made me think of you. Then, I saw someone who made me think of you. Then, all I could see were people who reminded me of them. Those people, ancestors of the sun, leasing shade to those who have not yet come, who remind me of things that have always been there. Here, bird's eyes, something blue, reflective bits and strange-like skill, falling through gravity like limbs. Here's the second poem. I must sound crazy to not feel crazy. This crab apple tree inside me needing to be picked. So the wind pushes my lungs around, shakes free loose change, the round swallowing dropped figs, like finders, keepers, losers weep, so the seeds might learn and grow. I count myself crazy to feel like I know this living room, my body couched. Roots like eyes everywhere, anywhere, a bit of water inkling, tingling its way out. This last one is dedicated to Kristin. Kristin, you're lovely, you're wonderful. I'm so glad to have met you via the Twitterverse. Again, this one's for you. Have a good birthday. Inside, the inside out there. Separate remains separate. The same remains like an orange is an orange, segmented, but still an orange like in painting. The color orange is made of red and yellow colors. And under those colors are colors. You can't see, but some animals can. There are crazy, crazy things. Invisible shades of yellow. You'd have to ask the butterflies. If you could ask the butterflies, ask them about those cones of experience. If you don't already have questions to ask, like, how do you feel about gravity? Do your wings, do they ever get sore? Or a million other flavors of inquiry. You might confuse which to be first. Thanks, everybody. Again, happy birthday, Kristin. And Tom, it's nice hearing you again. Take care. I'll see you soon.
Indeed, you will, Joe. Again, that was Joe Ianni, a returner to performance anxiety and someone whose poems I always look forward to reading. And if you want to read more of Joe's poems or see some of his emoji work, which is something I treasure, it's my banner picture on Twitter still, I think, you can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at WTF is a poet, all one word. Our last live reader for tonight is someone I'm privileged to introduce as, again, a first-time PA reader, and that's Alexis Bates. Alexis Bates is a creative living out of Baltimore. Their work has been published in Noble Gas Quarterly, Oculum, Luna Magazine, and elsewhere. Ask her what she's working on after she shares these poems with us. Thanks, Alexis. Go right ahead.
Hi. Let me see if I can get this to work. Sorry, guys. Hi. I am going to be reading a couple poems that are unpublished, but first I'd like to say happy birthday to Kristin. It is such a delight to know you, to hear you tonight, and to be able to read one of your poems tonight. This is one of my favorites by you. It's Pink Plastic Houses. Pink plastic houses. The house you buy at 25 is pink and 4 feet tall. Twilight Walmart purchase you make with cash you mine from men who think it's all pretend. The pigtails and nervous sitters they believe to be a put on. The 5-inch heels and 8 they think you fake to take their money. Shake for them till dawn and buy a plastic puppy. Plate, heart-shaped. Set a tiny table meant for 2, and it's just you in knee-high socks. Hover high above 3 stories with something new to sate the child inside you can't deny. A plastic house you furnish with pink dreams. A woman child, exactly what you seem. This next poem is, well, actually, the rest of the poems I'm performing are all co-written with my friend Tom Reed. So I am performing them on behalf of both of us. Blindfolded. I heard a rib creak. It is an old floor with no one there in the shadow. I am breathing. You are breathing. Tired. Same. The body demands to be felt. Staring at the light is bad for the eyes, but we cannot stop. Wrapped in another's arms, another's breath. Stop. Blindfolded, waiting, quiet. The quiet gives us strange birds that fly overhead. Their arms seem moving, my love. Are my arms angry again? Do they cry to be special again? The flapping of the wings says nothing. I cry to be special again. I am more than arms that need moving. I am flailing. I am failing. I try to move you. Is this a dream? A poem? A memory? It is all the same. It is hard. The night is hard. I try to untighten you, to lighten you. Your arms need to sing, my love. This next one is a 2-part poem called Traumatic Content Leaves a Better Person Unsettled by Wet Dreams. Lost boys cast themselves lovebirds nesting. I beckon with neon flame her gentle fingers with their good ache. And we manifest on a drunken bed. In the first, I wake up tired but remember their bodies close to mine. After the second, I wake up, his scent clinging to the air. After the third, I wake up better off alone. Cleo, what's his new name? I asked. Cleo didn't speak. We never did before. Aphrodite, please, There is something about a heart that begs. He opens his mouth and says to me, his name is dead. Traumatic content leaves a better person unsettled by wet dreams dream for. In wetness, I'm sure of anything, there was a dream. Silence. The scoff is a detail I remember now, how all of this should work. You remembered I prefer my flowers dead. You are nothing but repressed memory. There was a dream, anger made a comeback, a kindness. I'm crying. I get to wake up. And this last one could be short too. It's called Finding My Abuser's Obituary Under Faded Conditions. Birthed from the ocean, Aphrodite clung viciously to herself. Salt water made more mystery of her than fantasy. I barely thought skin. Can I reach for you with my own strange fingers? I touched my dry skin and wished to romance osmosis. From our confused shifting came all kinds of flowers and states of ecstasy. Bliss flowers, sex flowers. I barely thought of how I could word touch her before an adrenaline search finds her name slurred and serif. An adrenaline search finds her mouth leaking fluid for the last time. Bigger things are here now. What if I am the abuser? We go backwards. Birthed from the ocean, Aphrodite clung viciously to herself. She filled my fantasy of desire and beauty, so I claimed her divinity. I'd barely considered boldness when she began to rise against me, discovering ecstasy. I wanted to ask her something, but she couldn't stop. I did not know of these things back then, even when I had some of the words. Bigger things are here now. What if I am the abuser? Go backwards. An adrenaline search finds her. Mouth, leaking pink fluid. And I was not there to save her. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Alexis. It's really cool to hear the way the ghost of sort of co-authorship works in those poems. And if you want to read more work by Alexis, you can find her on Twitter at The Writer Bates, TheWriterBates. And you can find her Neutral Spaces page at neutralspaces.co/The Writer Bates. So now our poets can rest easy a little bit because the live portion of tonight's reading is concluded. And the remaining three readers were kind enough earlier today to share some recordings with us, both of their work and in honor of Kristin's birthday. So we're going to start that section of the reading off with Kailey Tedesco. Kailey Tedesco is a poet, teacher, and witch from Allentown, Pennsylvania, which is like the antique capital of the world. Lots of Pyrex down there. She is the author of She Used to Be on a Milk Carton from April Gloaming Publishing and Lizzie Speak from White Stag Publishing. So I'm going to get the recording started, and I'm going to rely on my fellow Skype callers to just let me know if all falls apart and you can't hear anything.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kailey Tedesco, and I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much to Tom and Kristin for having me. I've wanted to join in for a while, so this is super great. And happy birthday to Kristin. I'm so happy to celebrate with you. I think you're just absolutely fantastic and wonderful and lovely. And so I'm going to share two pieces of my own tonight very quickly, and then I'm going to share one of my favorites of Kristin's to kind of close out. So this first poem I'll share is from my new collection, Forever House, which is coming later this year from White Stag, and it's called Spellbreak, Where Do I Go When I Die? My death will separate, flow upwards, finger to finger, and form collapsing chapels. Hell, we know, is all the Puritans who believed in a God, legendary storyteller. Like the time I told you I like pet sounds, when I don't. Not that much. I've been possessed, and every time it feels like my body is a forest of corn husks and orange rot and overcast and kindling. I am also inside of the forest. My body, all alone in a witch shack, pots and pans all purloined, and everyone is afraid, especially the infant of me. The forest is haunted, and I know this from dreams of wolf's paws and egg juice now cherried. I wear garmandine in sunrise colors and pray for someone to find me inside my own firing synapses. All I can hear is distortion pedals, dog barks, glockenspiel, and cellos. And I can't find God anywhere. And you left when I stopped singing, and now my insides are becoming the pando. I'm breaching the wood tide, becoming a forest with just one kind of tree. So this next piece is actually brand new. I just wrote this, I think, a couple weeks ago. And it's kind of, it's not in Forever House, but it's sort of thematically similar to the piece I just read. And this is called Sometimes Our Dead Show Themselves, Unburied or Otherwise. There is art on all the other planets. Ghosts speak to the medium in verse, poems on the chalkboard, rhymes in the door hinge from our elsewheres, all of them. I'm crying in cross-stitch, crop circles skirting me in shallow cuts and selenite. Bring your salt closer to my mouth. I am in want of its protection. Did you know how often I derealize? My frequent headaches sculpt me into my deceased self, rubbernecking my own shoulder. Eyeballs so overstuffed they plate themselves in garnish, a St. Lucie. We order the pizza, and the Bewitched song plays twice in a row for unknown reasons. And you think about how I'll one day die, and then so will you. And one of us will be waiting for the other at this pizzeria, or else in our own home we've yet to discover. The waiting one will be occupied by shadow work or macrame, lay starfish on the carpet until the mercy day arrives. Thank you for making me your May Queen. The flower berries are still lodged sweetly in my palm's teeth to signify a fortune, and it has become a day I'll try harder to remember. Yes, one of us is waiting, and one of us is coming, and that is the future we can count on. The rest is the X marks the spot, and the spirit inks in more clots than usual, which suggests there is a house already in want of our tincture in bone dough. So thank you so much. So that's it for my pieces. I'm just going to close out reading this piece by Kristin called Rosemancy, which is just so beautiful. Did he believe you were a bloom, not rashed, abashed, adolescent, doomed, entombed, upstairs, crimson-cheeked, viewed through cylinder glass, pistol pink, peaked pointillism, amuck by candlelight, to pluck or pollinate demonic birthright? Did he see buried thorns, subcutaneous, to liberate like horns erupting furious, bleeds the season mortality recedes? Did he see himself in you, his powdered lip a golden hue amaretto, eyelids half closed, pollen undertaste of tulip tuberose, swallowed demonology, a bedroom above adult gossiping, a better medicine is blossoming. I just think that's fantastic. So thank you so much again, Tom and Kristin, for having me, and have a great night, everybody.
That again was Kailey Tedesco's recording from earlier tonight. True story, that was going to be the poem that I was going to read in tribute to Kristin. I was like, I got this recording. I was like, yep, that's a good choice. I agree. So Kailey Tedesco, you can find again more of her work on Twitter at KaileyTedesco. And again, her book Forever House will be released from White Stag Publishing later this year. So speaking of books, our next reader is Cavin Gonzalez, who is the founder of Back Patio Press and the author of I Could Be Your Neighbor, Isn't That Horrifying?, which is a gorgeous book that arrived on my doorstep literally just this morning with a really great note from Cavin. So I'm super excited to share this recording with you. Cavin's a longtime member of the literary community, back when he was a prose editor at Soft Cartel, I think. So it's really great to have him on here. So here goes Cavin's recording.
Hello, goons, ghouls, and goblins. It is the leader of the HOA here, Cavin Gonzalez, with my new book, I Could Be Your Neighbor, Isn't That Horrifying?, sitting in my lap. I'm going to read a couple pieces for you here, the first of which is called Hermitude, for probably obvious reasons. The only escape available is a YouTube documentary on marine life in a half-smoked bowl. Sir David Attenborough is my favorite narrator. British folk have a naturally entrancing accent. Maybe that's why soccer's so popular. When the boredom assaults at full force, I know that there's always the pixelated TV fish.
How would we ever have a performance anxiety reading without technical difficulties? So let's give that 1 second. And Cavin's reading will resume in 5, and 4, and 3, and 2, and how fast can I click? And 1.
Hello, goons, ghouls, and goblins. It is the entrancing accent. Maybe that's why soccer's so popular. When the boredom assaults at full force, I know that there's always the pixelated TV fish. Recordings of seals, whales, British men talking slowly, coddling me, kissing my forehead. There's always the bag of chips fallen behind my mattress, a source of sustenance in my otherwise barren world. And, of course, I know that there is no need to peel myself from this bed and remember what exists beyond my comfortable confines. Oh, but Cavin, that's so bleak, you're probably thinking. That made me not super happy. Well, don't worry, guys, because not every piece is bleak. Some of them are also bleak and kind of funny. For example, this piece titled here, Chef Hours, for, again, very obvious reasons. I was standing in the kitchen making a grilled cheese, only wearing my boxers, naturally, as that is the appropriate dress for producing a midnight grilled cheese. It was my roommate's birthday. He had just come home from dinner and a night on the town with his girlfriend. As he suddenly came through the front door, I turned to him. I started saying, "Oh, I'm so happy that you're not with your girl. That would have been embarrassing." But then his girl also walked through the door and saw me standing at the stove in my underwear, spatula in hand. I wondered, as she giggled, if my cooking a grilled cheese at midnight looked like a fun/college thing or a sad/pathetic thing, because, let me tell you, it was certainly one of those. And because, obviously every single event that occurs in this book is true. This is a memoir. I know it's marketed as fiction, but let's be honest, it's a memoir. The elves, the dog, the shit, the condoms, all of it, it all happened, most definitely. So I want to share with you guys a little segment here, a piece titled A Type of Death, which is very reflective of my childhood and, the loss of innocence that generally accompanies a diet composed of hot dogs and Coors Light. When I was about 11 years old, I discovered a cluster of stars with my Walmart telescope that I named the Little Patch. It existed really close to the Little Dipper. I charted it in my notebook and everything. Little Patch was only visible on incredibly clear nights, and I always looked forward to seeing it, dragging my telescope to the front lawn and setting it up, searching. I don't know when I fell out of love with stargazing, but I have. Now the stars all look at me funny, and when we make eye contact, the stars and I think, you're not so special. Okay. I swear, I promise. I'm done reflecting and being sad. and boring you guys and being depressing as fuck. So to sign off before my little happy birthday to Kristin, happy birthday, by the way, happy birthday. I have a final piece that's pretty fun. It's titled Ass Grabbing. And this one most definitely happened. I had one hand waving back to my neighbor and the other hand inside of a grocery store plastic bag, lubed with some margarine, 2 fingers clasped on a latex tip. "How's your Sunday going, man?" he asked. "You know, killer, having a ball." "Oh man," he said, flipping a cheeseburger onto his girlfriend's plate. "That looks rough, dude. What's going on?" "He ate a bunch of condoms," I responded, slipping a shit-laced sack of latex out of my dog's ass. "He's been shitting weird balloon animals all morning. This one got stuck." "That's sick," my neighbor says. "You should be more careful, man." My neighbor and his girlfriend chuckled, waved to me, and went back inside to get more patties to grill. I was grateful to have the 4 beers in me then, or I might have just exploded into an army of spiders right there, raided his house and annihilated everything he ever loved, laid eggs in his fucking eye sockets. But I had the 4 beers in my gut. I was fine. Totally calm. And so, with this knowledge I have gained, let me give you some advice. You do not want to be sober when pulling a condom out of your dog's ass.
And on an inimitable note like that, that's where Cavin's recording unfortunately ends. I realize now that I don't think I have the recording of Kristin's poem. So we're going to move on to our last reader, and Cavin will share that in some other channel. Again, if you would like to read more of Cavin's work, you can find Cavin on Twitter at Cavin B. Gonzalez, Cavin Bgonzalez. And also because Cavin is self-effacing, when we asked about any other stuff he wanted us to hype, besides like the book that just came out, right? He said, actually, instead of the book, the Neutral Spaces birthday magazine is very good. And if you haven't yet read it, please do so. Or, just go read the Neutral Spaces blog. Much love, end quote. Again, that was Cavin B. Gonzalez. And our last reader, who was kind enough to share a recording with us tonight in tribute to Kristin, is Jill Bergantz. Jill Bergantz lives in Northern California with an exceptional dog theme. Her first full-length collection comes out this year, Animal, Vegetable, Mineral. It's forthcoming from Uncollected Press. She's going to be reading some feral feminist poetry for the Dead Rabbits reading series next month, which I believe is the reading series Devin Kelly helps to run in New York City. I saw Devin last night at the Camp Tab in Cambridge, and that was really a privilege. So on February 23rd at Sideshow Books, it'll probably be a lot of fun to see Jill Bergantz read. So last but not least, here is Jill Bergantz.
Hello. It's Jill Bergantz. Kristin, happiest of birthdays to you. I have 2 poems to share tonight, both of which are making me very nervous to share. So that means they're perfect, right? At least for a dry run. This is skeuomorphs, which you can Google later because it's a cool word. Did you know cows need to be shown only once? And then each May they drive themselves up the pass to summer pastures. Cowboy escorts on horseback tipping their hats, taking credit for a magic trick they love in amazement or relief. When I visited the flat state where I once had lived, I made a point before I left east and south this time to stand for a while in the middle of the highest overpass in Galesburg, this back stiff pleasure arched across the busiest switching yard in America. 10 years had passed, but the joke still held in a salt belt state. This is where cars come to die. It drove in droves the inches between floorboards and the bottom of the driver's side doors rusted out until they're skinned, but hey, it still runs. And me? Standing in the coming summer rain, sound from below, sound from above, the swing, the transverse fault, roiling concrete. I could bear it for a moment before my imagination plunged down on so many rails, lined up like whales of corduroy. Do you know about cattle guards? They're not made to trap a thing, but to teach it. 10 years old at the Arola Ranch, my feet didn't measure long enough to straddle the bars, but I did not yet know that. I watched my best friend pace across, call to me, and step one, I slipped left ankle deep into the pan. Oh, Lord, I felt my instinct then. I felt it kick again this week, standing on a cantilevered bridge, feet in Oregon and Washington both. I am grown enough now to know I will not fall in my summer dress through the space between air and water, water and sand, rocks and rocks and rocks, through the crust of our earth, soft center, a warm truffle, a last dessert. Do you know what I pictured then? Columbia River underfoot, and my heart bled dry. Beeves and kine, beeves and kine. Ruminants, waiting for the evening hour, they'll hear a diesel engine approach, dinner arriving, dry sustenance, flakes and bales, monotonous buffets in this peaceable kingdom. Did your mother teach you the golden rule? If the gate is open, leave it open. And if the gate is shut, you shut it behind you because you don't know which side the herd is on. This time, this is not the time I fled, inches from a roar of engine brakes sounding over din of wind. I am built steel enough to trust my engineering. Do you understand? Meet me, head on. I am all 18 wheels striding toward my August meadow. There you go, friends. And now for the lighter poem with the content warning. I'm so sorry. I hope this is not causing trouble for anybody, but I would just maybe warn the poem deals with stalking and violence against women because, unfortunately, a lot of poems now do. This is for a lesson, though, like Aesop, but badass. Pedagogy. You taught me of the delivery driver who stalked you, newly returned, and heart confettied over the miles years before I would ever be born. When he goes for you, you go for his keys, throw them hard, and set to run. Any direction away, but commit to run. He has to choose. A car? A woman? Don't let him have both. And when the former doesn't work, I'll tell you what. Here, have my body. I leave it to be gibbeted to the crimes against it, and held high above ground in that bespoke exoskeleton. Here, sister, fucking listen. My fleet-foot stench will run for miles. A corpse, a tool of navigation, mother of larva alone. Here, have my body. Let it be your object lesson. You knew me and you didn't. Let it be a lighthouse on this shore. This will happen to anyone, to you. Kristin, thank you for making me feel brave enough to say those things. And now, the part I've been most excited for tonight is the part where we get to share the poems that you have written that have touched us the most. I have had a soft spot in my heart for The Ladies Are Waiting from Hedgehog Poetry Press, the stickleback that you were in. It was the first chance I had to really get my hands on your writing, and I'm so glad for it. I hope that I do this justice reading it out loud. The ladies are waiting. Near guillotines, acclaimed headsmen of means, duplicitous gleams eyeing you, their thighs, secretly tattooed, surnames, killers, kings, state-sanctioned blowjobs, beheadings. So why not, princess? Even you. One bed, one head, misstep or two detected, collected, stored, fine wine, uncorked with lords, midnight rust, red aroma, royal deficiencies poured, some stone-floored cellar behind arched oak doors. A happy ending may require cunning, a crown to topple, rolling heads on floors, ideally yours. Best sacrifice is queen. Appeasement is the strategy you take. They're carnivores, and you serve them cake. Happy birthday.
Such a beautiful moment of full circle to hear that poem again. I believe that was again for that one. And that was again Jill Bergantz, who shared that poem with us earlier today. And you can find more of Jill's work on Twitter at Jill Bergantz, JILLBERGANTZ. And just a reminder that Jill's first full-length collection, Animal, Vegetable, Mineral, is forthcoming from Uncollected Press this year. So via Twitter DM, I'm trying desperately to get Cavin's recording of Kristin's poem so that we can share that to close. But at the very least, I must say that sadly we have come to the end of this month's birthday extravaganza edition of Performance Anxiety. So thank you so much to everyone for participating and for listening. If you're listening to this marvelous, to steal a phrase from Brian Bilston, this indolence of poets and writers. And I really do hope that you go out there and you read all their work and you buy all their books, especially Kristin's on this, her birthday week. So just to note that next month's Performance Anxiety reading will take place on February 20th, and it'll be hosted by the inimitable Jeremy Gauck of APEP Publications. That reading is going to be in celebration of the release of These Poems Are Not What They Seem, which is an anthology of Twin Peaks poetry edited with great love and care by our very own Kristin alongside Justin Karcher. So to close tonight's reading, I'm going to get to take a little space to read a poem of Kristin's as well. It's among my favorites of hers, and I hope you enjoy it to sign off the night. This poem is called Compartmentalized. I've known a lot of boys who look something like Architectural Digest vacation homes. Long, devised lines, wide windows in a woods for feral things to peek inside. Backslide before someone notices a nuisance and acquires an antiquated gun. Some cottage designed, blueprinted, then refined for generations hence. 15-foot cathedral ceilings, exposed brick, erected evidence, composed of whim and unnecessary wealth. A very public appearance of decorum, mental health. I don't really fit inside. I look to them like hotel rooms where they hide.